Hello, everyone. It is my absolute pleasure today to speak with Theo Bastians and Mike from AACE/Site about an exciting new opportunity that AACE has created, a new journal titled AI Enhanced Learning. And it's going to be open access. It's going to be fantastic. My first question here with the editors and initiators of this journal is, what is the vision behind this publication? What kind of submissions do you want to attract? And what kind of readership do you envision for your journal?
Mike, you kick off.
Okay. So I think it's important to understand that we are within the AACE community, which is an international organization that hosts, for example, many publications. I think the digital library within the AACE is one of the largest of its kind in the entire world. And there are literally hundreds of institutions that subscribe to AACE publications. So we're very fortunate to have the international communities of practitioners, scholars, and academics within AACE that hopefully will both seek to publish within our journal and then be readers of it as they do research and share the findings with their students.
Indeed, we organize conferences. We have more journals as ACE and at Media, eLearn site, of course. So it's really a broad audience of scholars that are based everywhere, international. So we are lucky to have such an audience, and also hopefully a lot of participants and proposals from all over the world.
And if I could add one more point to the vision, we struggled a lot more than we should have over the title and specifically the term learning. SITE, for example, is an organization dedicated to teacher education, which would present learning in formal environments, classrooms, and many of the people within SITE are trainers of future teachers. But we wanted to not only include that audience, but learners that occur everywhere, from after school programs to museums to informal learning. So we're focusing on learning and ways that AI can enhance it, both inside and outside the classroom.
I'm curious about your own individual personal perspective on the topic of generative AI. When did you first encounter, do you still remember, when was your first moment of playing with a generative AI tool? And if you reflect back, how has your own use evolved since then? And when did you realize, wow, this is really going to change education?
Teo, you want to talk about that one?
Yeah, it's difficult. We wanted to use AI for many years. I started working in the beginning of 1990, I think, on intelligent tutoring systems. At that time, we wanted to have AI, and we started, to make software more intelligent. But really, the start is recently. I think it's the beginning of ChatGPT. That was amazing. That was really an experience. And you knew the first time you used it that it would be definitely a game changer for the whole world. So recently, Mike.
Yeah, my background's actually in cognitive psychology, and I did a lot of my doctoral work in the 80s. And I was aware of researchers who were looking at AI and models of the mind, Herbert Simon, Marvin Minsky, and others. So I've been familiar with AI for decades, but I think Teo's correct about the release of the particular version of ChatGPT in November 2022, which really, shook things up. And I should mention, Stephanie, you had asked about the vision of the journal. We did agree that the journal is going to look at AI in general and not reduced to Gen AI in particular.
Thank you for clarifying that, and thank you for the reminder that AI is more than generative AI and encompasses more as a field. I know the journal is focused on AI enhanced learning. But I have a question about writing and scholarly publications. How do you think generative AI in particular is going to change academic writing, peer review processes, and academic publishing in the end?
It already changed academic publishing already. You know, we do a lot of reviewing and editing with the journals and also with the conferences. And the last decade, you also had always to review, you know, badly written publications or from non-native speakers, you know, with a lot of English correction that it was needed. So, and that's not the case anymore. They disappeared magically. And how come? I think it's AI. I think that everybody, at least, and nowadays, that's some form of AI help with the writing style, but also with the grammar. And
To
that's
pick up
the
on
little thing. Yeah. Sorry, Mike. Yeah.
no, finish your thought.
No. So that is just a small change that has been made. There are many changes. If you look, we all work at universities, and you see students work and deal with publishing and academic writing and their papers and etc. It's a struggle. It's an innovation. It's an improvement. It's all together. So we don't know how to deal with it yet, I think, as society and also as universities and also as academic publishers, I think. Mike.
I think the academic term for that is it's a hot mess. It's really something that we're struggling with in society. I can't write an email today without AI jumping in. So we have these prompts now that go well beyond simple spell checking and make all kinds of suggestions. I've been thinking of, I won't have the time to do it, but I've been thinking of writing an article called "Did I Just Write This Article?" Because it's amazing the extent to which common spell checking tools that we've used for years now have built in AI components. And a lot of us do throw in thoughts about writing into Gen AI tools. So it's something we're struggling with as a society, but in the academic world, it's problematic. I mean, there are cases, we've not faced this yet, but there are cases of articles that are submitted with AI generated data sets. So false data sets, how do we deal with that? We see many people submitting publications that have AI generated citations, the references that simply do not exist. I've come across those myself. It's a very difficult situation for us in the academic world to know what it is that we're receiving, and then the whole issue of intellectual property, which is based within LLMs, is really problematic. So we simply have no answers to this. I'll just note that when I did a recent presentation at the SCI conference, that probably was the single biggest topic, right, among our audience that generated the most. How do you wade through Gen AI applications, whether you want them or not, in your writing, and how, as we academics, how do we deal with that? So it's problematic.
Yeah, but Stephanie, also I'm also very excited about what is it going to bring us. You know, we at conferences, especially large conferences, we are struggling finding enough reviewers and all this stuff. You know, and at universities, big large universities, automatic grading and all this thing. I think it opens also possibilities. We don't use it yet. We still have the classical reviewers, and I think we also need them. But somehow I think it will change the work also in the back office of conferences and journals. So I'm also excited to experiment with that.
Agree.
This journal in particular, do you all have an AI policy for submission and review? Is it encouraged? Is it forbidden? Is it at the discretion of the author or reviewer? What are your thoughts for AIEL?
Yeah, as you can hear, it's not forbidden, definitely not. But we will see how it works. Of course, we have a policy. Of course, we think that it's important that you at least, if you use AI or ChatGPT or whatever tool, that you mention it in the paper. You know that and Of course, it's not the idea that AI will write your paper or your publication. It's the idea that it only helps you with your writing style and you know all this kind of stuff. So we will find out how that will work out. Mike?
We don't have an AI specific policy, but we are in dialogue with colleagues who are developing them. For example, within Site, it came up recently that people are reviewing papers using paper proposals using AI. And I believe they're headed toward forbidding that. So one of the concerns we have, because obviously we'll have a number of editors and reviewers, and I know Emily's listening in, so she can help us with this, uh, who might be tempted to use AI, generative AI tools to do the entire review of the paper. And that's probably something that we ultimately will say should not be done. The issue of how you use it as an author and the degree to which you acknowledge the use of it uh, is a undergoing discussion among those in the publishing.
Definitely. Definitely. But for forbidding it, it's difficult, you know. Nowadays, AI can adapt your writing style. It's becoming harder and harder to see whether it's written with AI or not. And so it's a continuous struggle, but also an improvement of the way we have to work as a journal and as editors.
Yeah, for me, it's I teach in an international program at the Asian University for Women, and I have to say I'm incredibly excited about the opportunities for my students because these women can suddenly absolutely, they are academically brilliant, but they are not, for the most part, native English speakers. So suddenly you have leveled the playing field for these very gifted passionate students who can absolutely bring innovation to the field. So I look forward to seeing more international contributions due to this. Do you think this will kind of spark more equity and more engagement internationally?
So
Certainly.
the that site conference presentation that I referenced a moment ago, those advocating for the use of Gen AI tools with second language learners, second language English learners, and those with disabilities were very clear in their advocacy that these tools be used and why they have to be used. The debate, if you will, came to the extent to which that should be cited. So we certainly support and understand why people in communities would benefit from the use of AI tools. But then the issue of academic publishing, comes into the whole gamut. And Teo had a really interesting perspective on this because he indeed is a second language learner who's done a great job. You talked a little bit about your experiences and how you have to deal with English in the publishing world.
Yeah, you know, I'm in the field of education technology for more than 30 years now. And of course, I'm originally Dutch and live in the Netherlands. And it was, of course, in the beginning, as if you're a young researcher, it's a struggle to learn, very well the academic writing that is expected by journals. So you had often reviews and that mentioned your style of writing or whatever, or put it different. And so nowadays it's much easier. People can immediately write, the good papers, and it took me a decade for and yeah. So I think it is an opening of the world also, and for journals, also in different languages. We are now always thinking of other languages writing in English, but the other way around is of course too. The translation and the style and everything, it's so easy.
Yeah, I think that is definitely a thing that has become more attractive. Like suddenly I can take my English publication and consider it, for example, for a German journal that I would normally not ever have gone for because it's too much work. And you can
So
only
Stephanie,
think in one academic writing style and one language. So yes, maybe it'll make the world more open. Um,
so
Mike,
Stephanie, I wanted to ask you, if you did that type of thing, would you cite the tools you used for that translation? What's your view as an author submitting an academic paper how you handle the use of the tool to deal with language translations, if you will.
I have a recent perspective. I did like a small autoethnography study where for, I think, 6 months or so, I kept a journal of my AI use, and I wrote an article about it. So it was like a very self-referential, reflective piece. But for this article, I also saved every single AI query and AI output, like in a little text file. And so I was completely, for this one article, I was going for complete transparency, also because I wanted to be able to analyze, like, what did I use, what was useful, and I wanted to be able, what kind of queries did I, what kind of output, did it do well, did it not do well? I also used different AI tools, and I had created, like, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds of pages of AI, saved AI output. And I thought, well, maybe it's a nice tool for posterity to see, like, okay, it's just a very small sample, but because we are at this phase where everybody's trying to figure it out. And in the paper I write, I cannot imagine anybody to do this seriously. Like, I don't think people will do this in the future going forward, that this will become the academic practice. People will cite this no more than they would cite their Microsoft Word processor or their Grammarly, or that they use a dictionary.
Right.
Or that they actually had to go back and look up how to do that, how to run an ANOVA and SPSS in their
Right.
methods book,
Yeah.
which they also don't cite. So we use all kinds of, little helpers, tools that enhance our cognition in many different ways. So in short, my answer is no, because I did it. It was an absolute pain, and I would not do it again. It also slows you down. It makes your use more unproductive. And I cannot see it happening. What I do think people will get very in tune with, at the beginning, we were all so excited about the image generators and the outputs that they had, and also the writing style. It was like, seemed all so professional. And now you have something that even slightly sounds like AI, and you're immediately turned off. And you immediately think, I don't want to listen to this. So I do believe that our indicators, our spidey sense for what is human and what is a machine talking to me, is going to increase. Our value for authenticity is going to increase. But we have at our university regulations where we say students, if instructors discourage the use of AI, it's an honor code violation to use it. However, at the same time, we say, oh, we strongly discourage and absolutely do not recommend using any kind of AI detector because of false positives, because of potential bias towards any number of people, but mostly non-native speakers. So with both of these things, both of these things cannot hold. You cannot say, oh, you're absolutely not allowed to do it, but I also have no way of proving if you did. That's kind of, so in this landscape of a generative AI saturated publishing world, I think we are looking at a situation where we will definitely see blatant use that is very poorly executed, and that will get flagged, and rightly so. And we'll see use that we don't even know about. And if we don't even know about it, if it's indistinguishable, then personally, I have to say, I don't care.
Right.
I don't care. I care about well-written papers that have something to say, that are original. And the rest is yeah.
The happy medium to that is to use it, and as you said, sometimes you inadvertently use it because it just jumps in on its own, and just acknowledge that you did use it. Just
Yeah.
reference the citation, and
exactly.
just to let people know. And maybe Teo can speak on this from the perspective of European academics, but we're hearing many editors who believe they can detect a chat GPT phrase or paragraph or passage throw that into an Gen AI tool, and it comes back and says this is likely generated by an AI agent, and they'll sometimes just reject it. We've heard cases of that with doctoral candidates as well. So I think people need to be aware that there are those who are simply throwing content into Gen AI tools and perhaps getting what you've said, which is the false positives, which is problematic as well. So it's a struggle for editors too on how to use it and when to use it, when not to use it.
Exactly, we have to learn too. And Mike, I totally agree. It's a struggle, and maybe we could detect it 6 months ago, but nowadays we can't. That fast. That's the speed of developing AI, and Stephanie, I totally agree. Only the thing is, you said, well, in the end, if it's good quality, I don't care. And I think that's also the opinion of most people in society. So in the end, it becomes a theoretical discussion whether you can use AI or not. So why not open it and say, well, you can use AI as long as you provide us with the tool, etc. Because people use tools for centuries, of course, to improve their performance, and this is also a tool. The only thing is, it's not just a little helper. It's a little bit more than a little helper, and we have to adapt to that as society and also as journals and as publishers, I think.
I think that's the important point. What is the threshold of what is a cross? Because as you said, Stephanie, we never in the past cited Roget's thesaurus when writing, yet we might have used it all the time. So, and we looked at spell checkers and thesauruses as incidental writing aids and never cited them. But I think Teo's point about when it becomes a bit too much, and so I don't think we've established that threshold at this point.
No.
Let me change topics here for a minute and talk a little bit about open access. So this is an open access publication, AI enhanced learning. And I'm excited about that. Is this a trajectory that just might be on the horizon for other AACE journals?
We can say we are only responsible for this journal, and I think this is important for this new journal to go with this flow of open access. I think it's very important. Mike has you have an opinion on what open access should look like. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about. It has to be free. It has to be open.
Well, I want to begin with what I think is the AACE policy and practice on this with other journals. That when you publish something online, and I did just co-author an edited book on Gen AI and education that came out early 2024 or whenever. But that journal is available online. There were no charges to the authors. The journal is available online. However, if it's held by an academic library, there is a charge by AACE. So I think that's what we understand. Part of this, our approach on this is really guided by AACE. So it's open access for any individual, both in the publishing and reading of the article. No author fees, but the holding in an academic library is charged by LearnTech Live. And again, this might be something that Emily can talk about with us offline because she's had experience with other journals. So, as I think you have too, Stephanie. So we're largely following the AACE guidelines. And I can say on behalf of Gary Marks, it was very important to him. I mean, he just made that clear. He wants it to be open access.
The funny thing is, Mike, that most people who participate in AACE and at the conference, maybe you don't even notice that the digital library, that it's a subscription, because many libraries of universities have a subscription, and it's just a low fee. But if you are logging in from your your work account, then you don't even see that it's a subscription, because you can just read all the articles in the digital library. But
so that's a critical point, and we need to do a better job educating our colleagues because, as Teo said, I mentioned earlier that there are hundreds of academic institutions across the world who attend ed meeting site conferences, and they're getting access to the journal, and they don't realize it's free to them individually, but they're just getting it through their institution.
Exactly. And Stephanie, in the end, this is a non-profit organization. Somebody has also, to pay a little bit for the servers and the maintenance and all this stuff. That makes sense. But for our journal, Mike, maybe you can underline that. It's totally free. You don't need a subscription for the digital library, or do you?
You don't need a subscription for access to the online publication. If you
Exactly.
were to go to an academic library and expect to find the physical volume, then that library would have paid for that. So,
Okay.
Fantastic. So that sounds really, really attractive. And a journal that's open access, no publishing charges for processing charges for authors, and indexed in Scopus and other like high quality scientific outlets and catalogs. So it sounds like an extremely exciting publishing opportunity for edtech scholars globally. Do you have any tips for successful manuscripts? That's
Be
what everybody
original.
wants to know. Like, what do I need to do to get in?
Be original, not only theoretical. If you are theoretical, it's not only your opinion, but really a layoff. Foundations of theories, different learning theories or technical theories, doesn't matter. And what we really love, at least Mike and I, something empirical with data. We're missing that. The
right.
field has to grow. So
Yeah, so by definition, if it's empirical research based, it should be original. People aren't supposed to, and so we would love to see that. I would just say in general that within Site itself, perhaps Ed Media, that's something that's kind of lacking. When I look back, I retired from my institution several years ago. Wrote tons of stuff, but probably wished I had done more empirically. So we do favor empirical articles, but if you're going to write something more theoretical, white paper approach, make it original. We know a lot of people have really
exactly.
great thoughts and ideas, but we're looking at something original thought or research on what it is you're presenting to your colleagues across the world.
How about leadership positions in the journal? Are you still looking for board members, editorial board members, or reviewers?
Reviews always. We need reviews. You can apply for a review, and then that would be great because they're already coming. And now we see in the system that there are a lot of submissions now coming in. So we need reviews for the editorial board. Yes, we were just building it, and we have now two editors in chief and two or three associate editors. So we are looking, but you have to apply for that because it's difficult. Self-nominations, it is possible, but you have to really have a little bit of experience in the field. And yeah, Mike, what can we say?
Yes, we are building it as we fly. We're I think Tayl's right. Reviewers, as many as possible. We look forward to applications, receiving, reviewing them, and then bringing them on board. But in addition to that, we are approaching individuals who we hope will shape the upper editorial board. And that's
Yeah.
why we have a guest participating or listening in on today's conference because we think she can make great contributions to the journal.
We have also two really major conferences represented on this call. The Site conference in Orlando is just behind us, I think, concluded last week or 2 weeks ago. And the AACE at Media conference, chaired by Theo, is coming up in May in Barcelona. So I was wondering if somebody is thinking about, I would like to get into this new journal, would it be a good idea to submit a high quality conference paper to an AACE conference or Site conference and get some feedback and get noticed? Is that a pathway for submissions?
It's the best pathway to submissions. Always, if you have a high quality paper, conference paper, and you think yourself it's worth to be published, send it to an AACE journal. And especially if it's about AI, we are happy, not Mike, to have it
Right.
and to read it.
I think that's the goal of such conferences. Ideally, the presenters are presenting a paper for review and feedback at a conference that later can be, you know, fleshed out as a journal article. I don't think it happens enough, but we do hope that happens. But in addition to that, it's a two-way street. I attended every single AI oriented presentation I could. I did approach some people and request that they write articles. I think Taylor's going to do the same at the upcoming conference that he's hosting. This may lead, we may have enough people publishing quality articles, so that may lead to a special edition journal. We're working on that right now. So I think academic conferences are great ways for there to be a face-to-face dialogue between authors and editors. And
Exactly. And Stephanie, in fact, that's what we do. At Side Conference last week, I heard great presentations, and if we think it's good, we also approach people and invite them to send in their proposal or their paper for review, and it works well. So I will definitely do that also, Mike, in Barcelona. Yeah, definitely. And the good thing is it's so different. The audience is different. Teacher educators at site, at media more pedagogically and technically innovators at media. So the journal will be a great mix, I think.
Yeah, I look forward to being in Barcelona and watching who will get discovered, who will get casted for the journal.
Yeah, that's the way to see it. Yeah.
With all of this talent in the AACE community, when can we expect the inaugural issue of AI enhanced learning? Do you have plans? Do you have something on the calendar?
we're looking toward the end of the second quarter, and we do hope that beyond that point there will be regularly published editions. In an off-conference discussion, we're not yet ready to commit to the specific calendar, but we do recognize that we should commit to a regular sequence of publications, which we plan to do. So, Teo, we agree we're seeking toward the second quarter for our first publication, and then regular
Definitely.
after that.
Let me end with a look in the crystal ball. Like, one of the submission categories of AI enhanced learning are possible AI futures and future studies oriented submissions. So I would like to ask you a few questions about the transformations that lie ahead. And obviously you cannot know, nobody can know, but you have a vast amount of experience with educational technology and learning sciences, and also educational institutions and how they react and reshape. So what do you think? Will generative AI decrease or increase equity, quality, and access?
I think in general it will increase equity, quality, and access, but there will be also some exceptions. You can also, and you see that with all the influencers who create content with AI, that's not about quality. So it goes both way. But I hope in our field, with working with a lot of research and teachers and all, it will increase the quality. But it can go both ways.
Yeah, I think we have to make a distinction between the potential within the tools and the actualization of their use. So I use as a model the internet and social media, which the internet almost by definition meant that we could all communicate with each other across the world. But what we found out, particularly with social media, is it created tribes of people, and people went into their tribes and actually communicated beyond their tribes very little, and they just reified the information within their tribes. And when people say to me, "I'm going to go to the internet to do research," frankly, that scares me, because the odds are that some of them will be doing that within a particular selected segment, if you will, of information. So I don't know the answer about where it's going to be. Again, what the tool can do, it's just like LLMs themselves. By definition, it's a neutral tool because it's looking at everything that was ever published, across the internet. But in practice, since that's very Western, white, English speaking oriented, that's what we're getting right now. And then we already know about biases that it's created within certain communities and cross boundaries. And I think that's something we have to be aware of. I think we need to learn how to teach that to our students. If we used to say you can't trust everything you read, you can't trust everything on the internet, you really can't trust everything generated through AI. I mean, that's really frightening. So
The good thing is, Mike, that's a negative, of course, but we're going to try with our journal to bring tribes together and get more understanding between those. Not?
well, you need to come to America and help us solve that problem because that's not working very well here right now. The tribes are clearly well defined, and
Yeah, I find that really interesting because on the one hand, you have this exciting tool that is creative and can generate and can do so many things. On the other hand, you have, like, in some cases, very heavy-handed algorithms that filter the answers, that push for a specific perspective. And it does remind me of social media, where we were, at least I was, maybe other people were less wrong about it, but I was so excited when Web 2.0 was the buzzword. I remember the first articles I wrote around that time, and how I was like, yeah, this will totally change, education, society, and whatnot, and obviously for the better.
right.
And yeah, I would say, you know, in hindsight, that was maybe true-ish, maybe more on the false side. So in education specifically, what role do you think AI will play? And in some cases, people get excited. They're like, "Wow, this might even replace teachers, in at least in underserved communities or in specific situations." And so, do you think that's possible? And if not, what elements? What are the elements that you think make education fundamentally human, a fundamentally human endeavor?
Mike, you go first. This is a dangerous one.
Well, I think for me, this is very easy. It may not be a complete answer, but it's something I've thought about a lot. I think what we're really discussing is a giant Turing test. The extent to which people believe that the AI enhanced robot is a teacher, then it's a teacher. You can read some of the research of people who have these robotic pets. There's robotic dogs that are really cute. Will curl on your lap and do it. And their reported experiences is that they have a living pet. That's their. So I think technically, and we need to look at a real burgeoning field that I think is important for us as educators to look at, is agential AI. When AI controls the agency of something. So in this case, I'll go back to what I said a moment ago. Can we use agential AI to program a robot to really have all the answers that you could have as a teacher, walk around and interact with the kids? Uh, and you mentioned, I don't know if you mentioned this. Well, I know it was you mentioned communities that are struggling for economic, socioeconomic reasons. That's where you might see it worse because that actually costs less money to do that. Now, on the one hand, I will say it cannot ever replace an actual teacher. The other hand, if the the kids and the parents believe it's a teacher, then it has, the Turing test, which, isn't and the other thing I do want to add to this, I will acknowledge in the US at least that publishers have played too big a role in the development and presentation of educational content. I know for a fact that they will be doing the same with AI. So as the media that students study, whether it's printed or electronic content, that will definitely, at least through the publishers, have an increased agency of AI involved in that. So there's a simple answer to your question.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think, can it replace the teacher AI? Yes, it can, depending on what your expectations are. If in certain areas where you're not, where teachers are not available, or if you want to have something at home quick and etc., you get used to AI. You can learn from AI. On the other hand, look, in our world, look at conferences, look at distance teaching universities. after COVID, we did all online. No, also with AACE conference, we did the conferences online, and yet we see that when we have a real conference with people where they meet and we are social species. You see now the numbers at the conference are going up again, and during COVID we thought, oh, there we go, we will be online forever. And online conferences still exist, but as an add-on, not as a main way to communicate, share, talk with colleagues, etc. I think AI will also be really nice to have add-on, and it will help a lot, and it can replace in certain situations definitely a teacher. But in the end, we need people to communicate and to have contact with.
Yeah, I think what I want to clarify what Teo and I are saying. Whereas answering your question from a technical perspective, can AI replace teachers? Yes. And apply the Turing test? Yes. Should it replace teachers is something different. So
Totally.
Yeah.
I'm curious, did either of you use AI as in a teacher role to teach you something, to learn something from it?
For myself?
Mhm.
Sure, all the time. If I want to know more about a topic, you can ask AI and read about it, but it's just reading so far.
I do all the time. And Stephanie, I often say to people, you said, should you use AI? Do we use AI? We did. What I'm astounded was people say to me, well, I don't use AI. My response is, well, it uses you. It's inescapable to write anything or interact with anything where AI is not present. So it does guide some of my thinking. I bounce ideas against it. I try to be aware that that's happening and note it if I do informal writing. So I find it as a useful aid in much of my work.
Yeah, I love it for things that I half remember. Something that I heard during a talk at a conference, and it can give me the full paper. And I mean, you want to watch it. Sometimes it makes up the title, and then you struggle for half an hour finding it. And you're like, no, you actually didn't. You actually weren't able to find this. But in many cases, you can piece from just a few ideas, few words, few sentences that you half remember. You can suddenly retrieve like the full work of a scholar that you otherwise you would be like, oh yeah, I heard this mentioned at the conference at the keynote, and it was really interesting. And so now it has these abilities to be your extension. But for me personally, for example, I tried to use it as a French tutor. And I gotta say, I lacked motivation. Yes, it works very well. I mean, I can pull up my phone and I can talk to ChatGPT in French, and talks back to me in French, and I can have a conversation, and I could in theory practice, but I have no interest in talking to an AI, like zero.
No.
It's
No.
not it lacks any of the characteristics that would make a human conversation interesting for me.
But it's getting better at that, and there are some mobile devices now where it will do that for you. That it'll do a live translation of somebody speaking to you in whatever language. Let's say it's Spanish, which I don't speak, so I can be speaking to somebody who uses Spanish, and in their voice, I would hear English. It tries to deal with those nuances that you're talking about. So I think that's why Taylor and I are a little bit hesitant to say we have any firm understanding of what's happening because things are going to evolve and change. And could there be a time in which we cannot tell the differences between a person speaking with a translation of their own voice? I think that's very possible. It'll pick up those nuances of our speech patterns as well. So
yeah. When I learn with AI, then it means little things that makes my work more convenient. I was trained also as a programmer, and don't do it too often anymore. But if I need little bits of code, then I ask AI and think, oh yeah, that's correct. You at least have the possibility to review and to say it's correct or not correct, like with SPSS or statistical methods. going through this manuals again, that's inconvenient. So you ask AI, and it comes up with a test or whatever, and you can, because of your knowledge, you can check whether it's correct or not. You need that. You can't trust it totally. It's becoming better and better, but you need somehow a reference, that the output is correct. But if you have that, it's so convenient.
And that is a discussion among computer scientists, particularly at academic institutions, when they work with their students. They're aware that their students are throwing stuff into Gen AI to write the actual code, and they test it out and do it themselves.
Works.
So, kind of a twist on your question, Stephanie, will there be a point in time in which code can be generated simply through AI tools? I think the answer is yes. But as Teo said, we need a way to know if it's correct, if it's accurate, is efficient. So yeah, that's a interesting and complex, evolving discussion, level of discourse in higher ed.
You both mentioned, and you both manage admissions. You both are part of graduate programs, graduate schools, and you mentioned admissions before. I have another confession. I have all the AI confessions. Like I have to write a lot of recommendation letters. Like maybe not as many as you, definitely probably not as many, but a substantive number. And I have loved using AI as a helper there.
Mm-hmm.
It and then when you said, oh yeah, these AI packages, I was a little, yeah, of course I can understand that, but on the other hand, it's such a specific genre, and especially again as a non-native English speaker, I want to get it right. I want to use the right catchphrases and the right words that will make sure that this student doesn't go to the bottom of the pile just because I didn't know the terms that people are looking for. I didn't use all the buzzwords that admissions officers want these days. So I think it's a two-way street as well, in how much people are using it, but also how computer-driven, in a way, our expectations have become.
That's true. You use AI to write it, and the submission office uses it to check whether the right words are in it. That of course that's a bad thing, but what can you do?
I know colleagues that use it all the time just for that purpose. So I think to check, Stephanie, on that is, as you use it, is it saying what you would have said about that individual? So if you were just to put a bunch of bullet points with the characteristics of that individual, and you feel that it states it correctly, then I go with it. The other thing I should have said earlier, but this is where that's very important. I use Gen AI as a conversational tool. I almost never, I really cannot remember the last time that I ever used a single prompt. I go back and forth. So I think in what you're discussing, and I know people use it all the time, is you might go a little bit further and then say, could you add a more personal touch to it? Or could you add a more formal touch to it? So I think if you believe that it captured the essence of what that person's about, and it's accurate and written the right tone, Gen AI is a tool. And we generally use tools in the history of human civilization. We've used tools for one of two reasons: to save effort, physical effort, or to save time. So it's an effective tool to save time, and it accomplishes what in your heart you believe is accurate about that person. I see no reason not to use it.
Exactly. But Mike, you also underline the importance of the knowledge or the competence to reflect on the output of AI. You must have competence. If you can't do that, then it's worthless, of course.
And that's something we should be teaching our students, that it's a dialogue, go back and forth, look for hallucinations and all of that. So
yeah, and don't stick with the first draft. Maybe that sounds very, very that has this particular way of phrasing things, but also this very narrow argument. I think you have to really coax AI to have like a broader and more authentic view of the world.
That's why we use the term generative. It's generative, I think people have been trained by the internet search, in which you put one phrase and that's it, you get the response, you move on. So we have to train people how to use Gen AI, which is a different approach.
all these things considered, are you more worried or are you more excited for an AI future that we are all embarking on?
You can only be excited for worried. What would it do if you're worried about the future of AI? It will come anyhow, and I think it's our field. It's our field of research and study. It always has been. So, I'm excited. Mike?
Oh, I am both. I am excited and I'm scared to death. I, I'm among those that can't believe that we haven't instituted the kill switch. I see no reason why some, again, my background as a cognitive psychologist and how knowledge is constructed, I see no reason why at some point in time AI robots would not want to go after I imagine the whole HAL 2001 movie sequence where they would just rebel. Statistically, that just has to happen. Um, so it's ridiculously powerful tool. On the other hand, I look at some of the stuff that's going on in medicine, which is just incredible. And the learning, I've looked at cases with prosthetic limbs where it learns and it learns how you normally would reach and it starts to anticipates that, for people that are using prosthetic limbs, for example. Yeah, so there are really powerful opportunities for us as humans and as educators, but it's fairly frightening. And it's definitely just to go back to what you said earlier. It's I'm frightened by how many colleagues take the same perspective that you did. And I did as well, that we were wrong about selling social media. Look where we are now. So I just hope that we don't end up in the same situation with AI. I hope we use it in more constructive ways than the potentially harmful ways.
Those were nice
Wonderful.
last words.
Thank you both so much
You
for this
you forgot
wonderful conversation.
you forgot to ask one question. Why, for my conference, did I get to go to Orlando and Teo's going to Barcelona?
Well, I have to say, I will go to Barcelona and I
Oh,
have not been to Orlando.
There you go.
But yeah, my sympathies, Mike.
yes.
But yeah, I mean, I've always said that Ed Media should come to the Research Triangle, and Theo, every single time I bring it up, he says, no, nobody wants to go there.
Yeah. I don't disagree with him. I live close by, so.
Oh, well, but yeah, I do hope. I'm also very excited. I have not been able to attend, but I love that AACE now has a conference in Asia, and the first one in Singapore, and I've seen that the next one is in
Bangkok.
Bangkok. So that
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
truly remarkable, and I think it means a lot to many people who now have a much better and much closer access.
And if
So
I
Exactly.
could add to that, we actually had Global Learn 2020 scheduled, ready to go in Shanghai, but a thing called COVID came along. So, yeah, it's something that we've been working at for quite a while. And I agree with you. I'm happy that we have achieved that.
Exactly, and it's organized, and the chair of the committee is the great Kurt Bonk. He was last year in Singapore, now in Bangkok again, and we look forward to that because he brings in a huge network and also his own expertise. So Kurt did last October a great job, and probably this year again.
yeah, who could be better for doing that?
Yeah.
Absolutely, and for creating community around a new region and a new way of doing AACE e-learn. So that's incredible.
Which makes it less likely they're going to return to your triangle. So keep that in mind.
That's true. That's true. I'm just kidding.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you for the
everybody.
interview. Yeah, it was nice.